Barb. I'll call to order the Warrensville Heights City School District Board meeting Wednesday, October 16th, 2019. Treasurer Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Elba?
Here.
Mrs. Gator?
Here.
Mrs. Moomin?
Here.
And Mr. Freeman.
Here, if you all can stand and face the flag to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Next on our board agenda is the approval of the agenda 1.3. Board members, have you had a chance to review this agenda for tonight, October 16th, 2019?
Yes.
Is there any questions, any additions, or any corrections we need to make before we get started, or that you see, board?
No.
Superintendent Jolly, have you reviewed this board agenda for tonight?
Yes,
Is there any changes or any additions to this board agenda for tonight?
no changes or additions, sir.
Thank you, Superintendent. Dr. Rock, our Treasurer and CFO, have you reviewed this agenda for tonight, October 16th, 2019?
Yes.
And are you certified that all of these programs that we're going to vote on tonight, that this district has the finances to pay for them?
Yes.
Okay. At this time, I would need a motion to approve the agenda 1.3, October 16th, 2019.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the agenda item 1.3 with no changes.
Do I- Thank you. Moved by Board Member Gator, second by Board Member Mumin. Board, is there any discussion on this agenda for tonight? Hearing none, Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gator?
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin?
Yes.
Mrs. Elba?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes. Motion carries 4-0. Next on our board agenda is 1.4. It's the approval of the minutes. I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes from the August 7th, 2019 work session meeting and August 21st, 2019 regular meeting. Can I have a motion for those two meetings?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the following minutes, August 7th and August 21st.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Moved by Board Member Gator, second by Board Member Mumin. Is there any questions on those minutes for those dates, Board? August 7th, 2019, August 21st, 2019. Hearing none, Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin?
Yes.
Mrs. Elba?
No.
Mrs. Gator?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, motion carries 3-1. Next on our board agenda is our actual public participation. Outside of the table of the boardroom is a card like here, if you want to fill it out and give it to our CFO, and you would have 3 minutes to come and present to this board. If anybody, did anybody get a card or would like to present? It's out on the table.
First one is Mrs. Underwood.
Ms. Underwood, if you can come to the podium, just give your name and your address. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Crystal Underwood, and I reside at 24409 Emory Road, Warrensville Heights, Ohio, 44128. And I just want to make a comment on how well of a job you're doing, Superintendent Jolly. I believe that in order for you to teach somebody how to do something, you have to know how to do it yourself. And I've seen you do everything on the mission statement. I've seen the school go up. I've been here 30 years, and no, really over 30 years. But my kids went to the school, and I've seen it go in and out of academic watch. I've never seen it make the progress that it's making now with you here. I've run into a couple of teachers and principals, and they're singing your praises over at John Dewey, Westwood, and the high school. So I would like to encourage you to continue to do what you're doing. And it takes a village to raise some kids, so if anyone is here from the public, if you'd like to donate some time to come help the kids, it's really rewarding, because when you don't educate your kids, then the neighborhood goes down, and then you're wondering why. So that's why people go to school districts that pay a lot of taxes. But Mr. Jolly, I really want to give you a thumbs up, and I don't know what you're making. It's not my business, but I hope they are paying you for what you worth, because you are worth a lot of money. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Underwood.
Thank you, Ms. Underwood.
Excuse me, for the record, all salaries are public record.
Thank you, Ms. Elba. Dr. Rock, do we have any other?
Mrs.
Cheselton. Come on down, Ms. Cheselton.
Oh, Jesus.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Kedra Chiselton. My address is 21110 Garden View Drive, Maple Heights, Ohio. And I am simply asking a formal request. I would like to go into executive session with the board to plead my case.
Ma'am, we don't just go into executive sessions.
It is on the board agenda at the end to go into executive session.
Right. You just have to do a, go ahead.
What you should do is send a letter requesting for executive session, and then the board,
And I will be able to do it in the next meeting.
you should send a letter.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Can
Go ahead.
we just clarify that that doesn't necessarily mean that you would meet with the board?
Correct.
What we would ask is that you meet with Superintendent
Correct.
Jolly, go through the proper chain of command.
Correct.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
Dr. Rock, is there any other public participation cards?
There's no more.
Thank you so much. Next on our board agenda is our superintendent updates. Superintendent Jolly has some visitors here, but I'll let Superintendent Jolly.
Yes, I'm going to defer my time today to Ariana Kirkpatrick, who will do an update on our facilities.
And Steve Zanoni.
And Steve Zanoni,
First of all, I'm really honored to introduce Ariane today. Usually I have to come in front of you and talk about change orders or things of that nature. And I've known Ariane for 20-some years. She's worked with our organization, PMC. She was working with the construction manager. She is identifying how well we're doing in terms of minority participation, female participation. She's got a great organization, great people. And I asked Ray's, can I introduce her, because I think she's a great asset. She has a home here, and so she really knows your community. And I have to tell you another thing, that she is very active in your ACE program and has really done a lot for the students here at Warrensville Heights City Schools. So, Ariane, you can comment on that. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Jolly and School Board. Thank you for having me. I am here to represent the Infinity Construction Team, Coleman Spine, and AKA team. It's important, prior to the project starting, we heard the request, the needs, and the goals of the Warrensville Heights City School District, and that diversity and inclusion was very important to you, and how can we go about implementing that. So we worked closely putting together a program that we thought would be beneficial to the community, that would be representative of the people that live here. I'm actually biased and really committed. I've been in Warrensville since 1970-something, 72, 71, 72. And my mom taught here at Warrensville. And myself being a black female entrepreneur business, diversity is very key and important to me, as well as it is to our whole team. We had some lofty goals that some people at first were not sure that we can make, and not necessarily because nobody wanted to be diverse, but there's a lot of construction going on in a lot of right now. So I have to just paint the picture of it. When you have a minority group that is already a small group, period, because we're still growing and we're still trying to get diversity across all the trades and across all the construction management. We still have a long way to go. We are not there, but we do celebrate the richness of the diversity we are trying to achieve. And then with all the construction going on in Cleveland, which is a great boom, that makes that number smaller, and it makes it hard to achieve those numbers. But we've made it a point of being in the meetings. We've sent it out to all the subcontractors on how much diversity and inclusion as far as enterprise and workforce is for us. So we are happy to report that on the workforce goals, it is 20% goal, and we are at 24%. And if we can just go to this, yes, I think that's it. Maybe I should have come down a little. Yeah, that's it. So this is the workforce goals. So we, if you see on the left, we have the construction companies that are working with Infinity, North Coast Concrete, Site Tech, Advanced Roofing, Lake Building Products, OCP, Zavarella, the AKA team, Coleman Spine, Imperial Glazing, Coleman Trucking, and Peterson. We have some companies that are just doing wonderful in the diversity and might be carrying a lot of the team. Shockingly, one of those companies is the AKA team. So we are at, and this number says 50%, but actually it's 100, because it's 100% minority and 100% female. So sometimes when you have a black female, they say that you can only count it one time for, you're either a minority or you're black, but you're both. So really, we're gonna make sure that we change that number to 100%. North Coast Concrete, they have a wonderful company that they're working with, a minority-owned company, Heather Baines. I cannot think of, what is Heather's company's name? Sean, do you remember? HR Safety. She's also a member of the CAA. She's one of their new diversity board, and the owner of North Coast Concrete is one of those companies that you really always want to see on one of your projects, because he's committed to diversity. Bob Darlimpo and I were on the same board. We're going to skip down a few. Where you see, some of them you see 0%, and that's because they just did not participate in the minority participating. But you see some companies, and that's because they have a contract, but they are not yet working on the project, like Advanced Roofing, Lake Building Products, and OCP. I know OCP and Advanced Roofing will most likely exceed those numbers also. Zavarella, the masonry company, they're at 6%. Who did I skip? Oh, down here. Coleman Trucking. They are a minority-owned company that was part of the demolition and abatement company. They had 1,334 hours, and 1,237 of those hours were minority. That's astounding. That was a majority of their workforce. So we're real happy about that. Female is hard to get. Okay, of course, we have 100% because I just have a two-person team. As you know, we also do construction also on waterproofing, so you'll see the numbers on that also once we come out with the next report. But it's just hard to get women. But we wanted to make sure that we had that goal at 5% because we're going to try it. And this is just where we are right now. So overall, you see we're at 24%, and the requirement is 20%. The goal is 20%. On the DBE, on the enterprise side, is really important. It's companies that make a commitment to hire minority partners. Like Infinity, they have partnered with two companies that are minority owned, and that is AKA Team and Coleman Spine. So what we like to do is we like to get our subcontractors, where you can't necessarily say, oh, you have to do it. We want them to do it because you have to be intentional about diversity, and it's the right thing to do. I can go on and give a lot of my opinions on that, but when you have companies that hire people that are representative of the whole community, those are companies that we like to look for. So again, North Coast Concrete, they have 14% of their contract, which is to a minority company. Site Tech has 4.23% so far for North Coast. Site Tech is less than 1%. Advanced Roofing is 3%. Zavarella's 2%, and Coleman Trucking 1.05. Although they are a minority-owned company, they didn't have to. There wasn't much that they had to bid out. So that report right now is 13%, and I think we have a graph that'll show it also. Oh, so that was the one I was just talking about. Sorry. So we'll go to the next one. The last one, because I just went through that with the percentage. So We just did the work first. So we'll go to the last page with the diversity enterprise summary. So far, the commitment on the MBE, 958,000. Percent of diversity complete is 30%. FBE, 28%, that's 552,000. And EDGE. And EDGE is a program encouraging diversity, growth, and equality. That's a state of Ohio program, which the state requires a whole whopping 5%. So that is, but as you see on this project, it's been exceeded to be 51%. Now that's key. The state of Ohio only requires 5% minority on a project, but we've exceeded it and we're at 51%. So that's not an easy feat to do. So that's where we are on the diversity inclusion aspect. And if anyone has any questions, I'll be glad to take them.
Board, is there any questions for Ms. Kirkpatrick about the program and how she's assisting with the pre-K to fifth grade project?
I just have one question. How did we come up with the percentage of 20% as the goal? That's the state.
It's sort of industry standard, and some of it is 15%. Warrensville chose to be more lofty because this is a predominantly black community, so we felt that 20% would be achievable.
And I guess it is.
It is, because we're at 24%, so, and we try to encourage all companies to participate. Technically, you can't, but you see, here you have the companies here that are participating, so we make sure everything's transparent and we show you who's doing it.
Is Coleman Spawn a subsidiary or vice versa of Coleman Trucking? Are they?
No, it's just a coincidence. Two different companies, and they're not related at all.
Okay, then just a comment, if I can.
Yes.
Final comment. I just want to thank you. I know that you've been involved with the district. You've brought different programs to us. So your help as an alumni and being a minority business owner has been crucial for us. So I just want to thank you.
Thank you.
Board, is there any other questions? Thank you so much, Ms. Kirkpatrick. I would like Sean to come up just for a quick, brief second. Sean, can you just let this board know where we're at on that project, the pre-K to fifth grade?
Yes, I'm Sean White. I'm the Senior Project Manager for Infinity Construction. And just to comment on Ariana's sort of assessment on the month, I'm the one that's looking at the overall goals because I bought all the contracts and finalized everything. And we're looking at probably overall on a combination basis for business from EDGE, minority businesses, and female businesses, around 32% of our contract values. So, so we're really glad to see those values that we've been able to incorporate in the contract. As Ariana has indicated, from the manpower, it's a struggle because there is a lot of work throughout the city for any type of worker.
Right.
So, so we'll continue and we monitor that as we go through and look at the varying phases of the project. Just as an overall summary for the board, the project is on schedule. Frankly, it's under budget, and we're moving along. We had our first rain day on the project in probably 3 months, so, but we still worked. So we were able to under roof a little bit, and we're trying to get a major concrete placement scheduled that might be pushed off to Friday. But overall, we're very pleased with the progress on the project, and as we've expressed in our meetings, we're continuing to press very forward to try and get this structure up and enclosed before the winter hits in, and that's a very aggressive plan based on our current schedule and approach. But everything has been on all cylinders, and we're very excited of the progress we've made to date, and I hope the district is also, in regards to the efforts that we've done from the team of Infinity, that includes AKA and Coleman Spawn.
Board, is there any questions for Sean about the project for our pre-K fifth grade? Keep doing what you're doing, Sean, and Finney's doing a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next on our board agenda is 1.7, Treasurer Update, CFO, Dr. Rock.
Do we have a clicker up here?
The clicker. Pass that down.
The page numbers of my update are small, but the dollar amounts are large. That's the takeaway for this update tonight. But it's very exciting for the district. This is the Phase 2 funding that we've got to now. The Phase 2 financing is two-pronged. The first prong is bonds at $39 million and certificates of participation up to $23,000. The reason that I'm presenting this is the standard language in resolutions is to sell the bonds in $5,000 denominations. And now we have an amendment resolution for the board to look at tonight in order for us to sell those small amounts that aren't at $5,000 so we can maximize our proceeds and get every penny that we can get. So the bonds, oh, wait a minute here. The resolution for the bonds was passed back in August, and the resolution for the certificates of participation was passed in September 4th, just last month. So in the bonds, the amount is $39,061,046. The total amount is 7,812 quantity of $5,000 denominations, leaving $1,046. But in addition to that, we also have to come up with proceeds to cover the issuance costs, capitalized interest, which also add to the proceeds. And this will more than likely be a number that won't be rounded to the $5,000. So that's why we have to do this. That's the main reason. The certificates of participation, they're at an even number of $22 million. We picked $22 million due to tax law and to conservatively fit within our finance model and the project list that we had. All three of those things were at work. So, and it's also based on the interest rate markets, which has been going up and down, so we have to be conservative with that. But if originally we thought we were going to get $20 million, so we're still at an increase of $2 million. And again, on this one, even though that's an even number that is divisible by 5,000, the additional proceeds to cover the issuance costs, capitalized interest, and that will more than likely add to it that won't be in a denomination of $5,000. So that's why the resolution's on for the board for tonight. So we can maximize, allow us to sell a few bonds that are below $5,000, so then we can sell all of the total amount. Do you have anything to add for that, Mike Priscilla?
We should actually be able to get within $46 of that bonds amount. So we're gonna go down to a $1,000 denomination. So
Oh, good. And is this like new law or something that the bond council had to add in?
Well, normally when these transactions are adopted and the OFCC puts forth an amount established for the capital plan, we generally will go in with an amount divisible by $5,000 for this very reason. But because of the circumstances surrounding this particular issue and the ongoing drawdown schedule that we were trying to match, we had to split this up into a tax exempt piece and a taxable piece. So in doing such, we came up with this odd lot denomination.
Got it. So the bonds and COPS finance timeline, tomorrow is the Moody's credit rating call. Way back when we did this the first time, we went as a big group and presented to them already. They have that on file. Now it's pretty much just a telephone call that we have to do. They're going to probably ask me questions for probably 2 hours like they did last time. So that is tomorrow, actually. And then there's a due diligence call with Fifth Third Bank. They're handling the COPS deal, and that will be on October 22nd. And then the COPS deal pricing and the sale will be on October 31st at Fifth Third Bank in Cincinnati. And the bond sale will be November 5th at UBS in Weehawken, New Jersey. So that's the timeline that's coming up now. So the rubber's hitting the road now. The bond sale is, will have UBS retail preference to our community, and Steve Patinsky is here from UBS. If you want to just maybe just make a statement on how the bonds will be sold and how our community can contact you.
Yeah, absolutely. So my contact, first and foremost, thank you.
Come up to the board if you don't mind.
All right. Again, thank you to have the come
Hi,
up to the board
Steve.
meeting again. Good seeing you. Obviously, my county information is up, available there. It's also going to be, I believe, on the district website. You can also Google me. I'm right down the road. The process is really just a quick 5-step process. The first step is really gathering what we would consider just basic client information, name, address, date of birth, social security number, et cetera, followed by a copy of your driver's license. All that information is then sent into our system, which takes about 36 to 40 hours to basically generate the documents required for client signature. So once we get that document, we'll have you come back in, sign those documents. At that point, clients also need to have funds for the purchase of those bonds deposited into the account. Once those funds are in the account, we will then be, as the previous slide stated, looking to price on around November the 5th. We will get indications of those levels probably a couple business days prior to that. You'll submit the order, I'll execute the trade, you'll get a confirmation either via email the next business day or snail mail a couple business days, and then a monthly statement then follows the first week thereafter. So it's a pretty straightforward process that does involve probably a couple steps and at least 2 or 3 business days ahead of that November 5th target date.
Perfect. So the main reminder and takeaway is that if you're interested in buying the bonds that the district's going to be selling, you have to get in contact with Steve beforehand in order to set up your account and have money in the account so you can purchase the investments. It's not like going to a store and saying, I want that right now. There's paperwork and accounts that need to be set up.
So we won't know the cost of the bond until November the 5th? The bond is going to be between 1,000 and 5,000, or?
No, they're going to be issued through us.
Okay.
For retail purchasing $5,000 denominations.
Okay.
That will stay. The pricing as to what the yield will be determined
On November 5th.
on November 5th.
For the large portion of the bond issue, $39 million.
Okay.
So it's not,
October 31st, we'll set the interest rates for the $22 million.
so Mrs. Moomin, now that I've gone through this a couple times, it's very interesting. It's not like there's just one price for the bonds.
Okay.
They're sold in year increments, depending on
Right.
what
Term.
year, because what we're doing is we're raising proceeds for the district to make a yearly payment, okay?
Oh.
So the interest rates for something that's 30 years down the road is different than the interest rate that's for next year. So they're in different years. So if you're interested in buying a bond at a certain interest rate, you would discuss that with Steve,
Absolutely. So
and then
we'll
he would
depend-
say,
Exactly, depending on the maturity structure will obviously dictate what the interest that will be paid. And we'll have some kind of indication, I would think, usually like a day or so before, a ballpark pricing scale.
Okay.
To give you just a general idea, but the pricing will not be set until that 5th.
Okay.
and then just to add to it, then what happens is when it goes for sale, there's multiple investors, and there could be more investors than what's available to sell, and then there's negotiations there on the interest rates on that. So the interest rates are always moving on this.
Right.
And then at the end, Mr. Priscilla will present us with a summary that says, here's the final numbers and what the final interest rate is to the district.
Was there any other,
And this is your phone number right here? the
That's my
91?
direct dial to myself, or my assistant Tammy will answer that phone number.
Okay.
So I do have a question.
Go ahead.
So what I'm understanding is this is going to generate some kind of revenue for us, is the hope. Is that correct or no?
No, that's,
Well, you said something about interest coming in, so maybe you can clarify that for me. I'm sorry.
well, we're generating proceeds.
Okay,
So the district is going out and selling the bonds, okay? And by selling the bonds, there's going to be a big bucket of money for us to have. We're going to bring that bucket back to the district, just to make it simplified.
okay.
So the money will come into the district, and then we could pay Sean White or Infinity Construction and pay for the construction. Then, every year with our taxes on the bond levy, that makes the payment for that financing.
So when would we start seeing these proceeds into the bucket?
It's
Come
one
in.
time. After
So,
we make the 2 sales,
okay,
$22 million will come in, just like we had $8.8 million come in December, and on the first project, we had $17 million come in.
okay,
that sits on our books, and you'll see that in our funds. Remember, I don't know if you remember last meeting at the permanent appropriations, I said, look at these funds, they have a lot of money in them, that's to pay for the construction. So that eventually gets drawn down to zero, but then at the end of it, instead of having money, you have a brand-new building, and then our taxes pay the finance payment each year. It's pretty
District will receive
complicated.
all the funds on November 21st.
November
November
21st.
21st.
That's what I was looking for, the date. Thank you. I'm good.
Oh, I'm
Thank-
sorry, I
thank
didn't
you.
know it
No,
was
no, no,
actually the
that's
date
okay.
you were
No,
looking
that's
for.
okay.
So it gets complicated, but what we want, at this part of the game, what we want is the lowest interest rate we could get, because that's gonna affect how much we're gonna pay, like as if you were financing a house. You know, if we were sitting down, like at the part we'd be at right now is we're sitting down to negotiate with the seller of the house to figure out how much they wanna sell it for and what's the interest rate we're gonna have to pay. That's the part of the game that we're at right now.
One nice aspect about the COPS issue is we're gaining $2 million in proceeds, and your actual repayment level has gone down since March of this year with $2 million in the proceeds, because interest rates have come down so dramatically. So that's a real nice byproduct of the market situation right now.
And that's great to segue into Mr. Purcell right now. He's our municipal advisor. Thank you, Steve. Mike Purcell is our municipal advisor. He's seen us through this whole progress, the whole pathway. He's direct representation for the district. And again, this is where the rubber really meets the road for this, because he'll sit at the desk and make sure that the district we're getting a good deal when we're selling these bonds. At the end of the sale, there's decisions to be made, and he represents us directly. So we get all of his expertise on that, in addition to all of the strategic financial planning that we did up until this point. And with the representation right there during the bond, representing us as we came up with millage rates through the whole process.
Thank you, Dr. Rock. I do have a question for you, Steve. If any actual client would want to buy those funds, how many days does UBS need? Like, all right, I got the money, but I'm coming to you, I'm giving you my name and everything. What does that take, 4 or 5 days?
3 business days.
3? Is there any other question, board? For? Thank you, Dr. Oh, thank you, Dr. Rock. Next on our board agenda is the consent treasury report and financial recommendation. We do have a resolution. I'd like to read that separately. Ms. Gator, would you read the resolution and we'll vote on 2.1 first?
Do you want me to read off of it?
You don't have to read it, just the top part of it.
I would say just passing this through here.
Yeah.
For all of this. Okay. You got it.
Thank you.
You ready for me to read?
Mm-hmm.
All right, the Board of Education of the Warrensville Heights City School District, Ohio, met in regular session on October 16th, 2019, commencing at 6:30 PM at the Warrensville Heights High School, room 154, 4270 Northfield Road, Warrensville Heights, Ohio, with the following members present. Member Michelle Elba, Member Barbara Mooman, Vice President Ray Freeman, and Member Millicent Gator. The notice requirements of Section 121.22 of the revised code and the implementing rules adopted by the board pursuant thereto were compiled with for the meeting. Resolution, do we have a resolution number?
Not yet.
No? Okay. A resolution amending the definition of the authorized denominations as set forth in the bond resolution adopted on August 21st, 2019, to provide more flexibility and bond structuring. Be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Warrensville Heights City School District, County of Cuyahoga, State of Ohio, that Section 1, the definition of authorized denominations as set forth in the resolution of this board adopted on August 21st, 2019, authorizing the issuance of voter-approved bonds, the bond resolution, is hereby amended to read as follows. Authorized denominations means, A, with respect to current interest bonds, a denomination of $5,000 or any whole multiple thereof, except for one maturity of current interest bonds that are tax exempt and one maturity of current interest bonds that are taxable bonds, each of which may be issued in the denomination of $5,000 or any whole multiple of $1,000 in excess thereof. And B, with respect to the capital appreciations, a denomination equal to a principal amount that when interest at the applicable compounding interest rate is accrued and compounded thereon, each interest accretion date, I'm sorry.
That's all right, no problem.
I thought it was a typo. To the stated maturity of the bonds will resort and a maturity amount equal to $5,000 or any whole multiple thereof. That's it? All right, thank you.
At this time, I would need a motion for 2.2 bond resolution.
All right, I'll make the motion.
Well, you already made the motion when you read it.
Right,
You
I need a
so why-
second.
you just need a second.
I need a second.
I'd second it.
Any discussion on this bond board?
That resolution needs to have Ms. Mitchell's name removed because it said the members that were present. She's not present.
What I
Dr.
read,
Rock?
though, did not include
No,
her.
but I'm
Yeah.
just.
She's right.
Actually-
Fill it out
Strike it.
accordingly.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on? Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes. Motion carries 4-0.
And then you could do a separate vote
Correct.
for 2.1.
You got it. You got it, buddy.
We're getting good at this.
I need a motion for the consent treasurer report and financial recommendations, looking for 2.1 cash reconciliation.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to, I move that we accept item 2.1 cash reconciliation
Yep.
for August of 2019.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved by Ms. Gator, second by Ms. Mumin. Any discussions on that cash reconciliation board? Hearing none, Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes. Motion carries 4-0. Next on our board agenda is the consent superintendent recommendation and presentation for board action, certified staff. I'm looking for a motion for items 3.1 through 3.6.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move that we accept as a consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board actions, certified staff, items 3.1 through 3.6.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Moved by Ms. Gator, member, and second by Ms. Mumin. Is there any discussion on those items in that section 3 board?
So I have a question.
Go right ahead.
This culture coach, is this the second one we're hiring or is this the first one that we're hiring?
No, so we hired, Mr. Johnson, who was serving in that role already at Eastwood. This is the second one for Westwood.
Do they have any experience in social service?
No, they don't. They don't have experience. They have experience in coaching and relationships with parents.
Well,
Board, is there any other questions on the items in section 3?
Does it require them to have social work experience on that?
No, sir. No,
I
ma'am.
didn't say social work, I said social service.
Social service.
So that was not included in the original job description. If you remember a couple months ago when we discussed this, and I had mentioned to Mr. Jolly that he and I had a discussion, is how do you hire a coach based on the job description? And it talks about social service things that they'll be doing, but they didn't have it. So that's where they came from, and that's why I asked.
That's correct.
So just so I'm
Ms. Gator.
clear, is there a certification of some sort for social services? How does somebody get that experience?
So there's no certification for this position this is like a dean of students position. So it's a position that deals with students, teachers, and parents. The social work position, you do need a certification for it to be a social worker. So we do have 2 social workers. We were granted $394,000 from the state for social, emotional and wellness. So this is part of the funds that we're going to use. We see a need because we see a disconnect between teachers, students, parents, and staff. So this role, and what we see at Eastwood, is working very well with Mr. Johnson, who is interacting between all 3, building bridges, building alliances, dealing with discipline, and we believe that we can duplicate this at Westwood also. It's grant funded, so we will review at the end of the year. If it's something that we see as successful, we'll retain it. If it's not, we'll make adjustments.
And it's a perfect match for the student wellness grant from the governor.
Is it a full-time position?
It is full-time, yes, ma'am.
All right,
So,
thank you.
Mrs. Jolly, you don't feel a need that it may be beneficial at the middle school?
So at the middle school, we have an assistant principal there. Those two schools do not have assistant principals, so they don't have that support. So Eastwood and Westwood do not have support like the middle and high school does.
Okay,
And John Dewey also has an assistant principal also.
okay.
So was this posted?
Yes, it was posted.
So I guess another way to look at this, because you mentioned dean of students, you know, if you're a true dean of students, you would have to have some type of certification as a principal or administrator of some sort?
No,
Not necessarily?
Not necessarily. It
Okay.
depends on the district.
Okay,
Who does, some districts do have teachers in that role, some don't.
okay.
Just depend on the district.
Any other questions, board? I need a motion for the consent superintendent recommendations.
We have that already.
Oh, did we? I'm sorry. We need a second.
Vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead and vote. I'm looking at the previous. Go ahead, Dr. Wright.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes,
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, motion carries 4-0. Next on our board agenda is the consent superintendent's recommendation and presentation for board action classified staff. I'm looking for a motion from items 4.1 through 4.9.
yes, Mr. Chair, I move that we accept as a consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action classified staff items 4.1 through 4.9.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
Moved by Member Gator, second by Member Mumin. Board, is there any discussion in that section, item 4?
So I have a couple questions.
Go right ahead.
Jolly. So, I don't know which board it was, this board or the last board, but created a policy allowing you to hire people and then they were to come to the next board agenda. We've had, this is our third meeting that we've had. How come there's so many September 16th, July? All of these people have been working for months. Why are they just now hitting the agenda?
So, HR, I want to look at an example of what you bring to the
So
table.
I'm looking at, one of them is Ms. Pollard in the treasurer's office.
Yeah, Ms. Pollard just started.
Excuse me.
I'm answering it. Ms. Pollard just started. Dr. Rod, she just interviewed and
Just a
started.
week ago.
Yeah,
No, we've had 2 board meetings since then, that's my point.
we October 3rd. Sometime October 3rd was the meeting.
So we had that one, and
Yeah,
then you
and
have,
sometimes in this case, the fingerprints and things weren't backed by the meeting. Mhm.
so then I'm looking at the September 16th. The gentleman, went from substitute cleaner.
Which
to-
item are you
Yeah.
referring to?
Oh,
didn't mean to cut you
I
off, sorry.
apologize. Okay, so I am looking at the
4.3.
4.3, the cleaner, the substitute cleaner custodian. He went from a substitute that we voted on to permanent. If you're retroing it, how do you retro their benefits and everything if he's been working well over a month in this position and he's never hit the agenda? So what happens to his retro?
So, Dr. Rod, can you answer that? My understanding that he was a substitute, once he was interviewed and approved, that was his substantial start date. Dr. Rod will know the specifics.
When you said
on-
approved, you mean by your
Well,
staff?
once he was, not by the board, but he
Yeah.
was recommended
HR.
to start, because we were at a loss and we did start on based on policy. Dr. Rock will share on how they adjust the benefits based on that.
Yeah, it gets reported from when HR puts in the effective date when they sign in.
So, no, I
When it
know
gets
that's
caught
the
up.
salary, but how do you adjust their benefits?
Benefits.
So I think it's.
Yeah, but I don't think you can though, can you?
Tasha,
Yeah, so his benefits, will start on October the 1st,
Mhm.
because we don't start people that they get hired. So if they start on September 16th, it's
Mhm.
gonna be that first of that next month.
Okay.
So it's been in this fund.
And that's the form that they fill out, that I'm mentioning.
I will say that, that's something that we will continue to make sure this doesn't happen, but it is on this agenda.
4.2, charity started in our office on September 30th, which was,
And you got one that started August the 9th. I'm just asking.
So, but
Is there any
this
other-
one says it's a, so I'm sorry, I
Go
just,
right ahead,
I
I'm
want
sorry.
to
Go
get
ahead.
clarification on this. So the one that you just mentioned, it says it's a reclassification.
Well, no, he was a substitute. We voted on him
Who said
last
something
month.
about a reclassification?
I'm sorry?
Who said something about a reclassification?
That's what the job description says. Approve the reclassification as cleaner custodian at the rate of $17.81 effective September 16th. I'm just going by what,
But they had already been board approved for
no,
the
they were board
previous
approved for a
position.
for a sub, not for permanent.
So just so I understand, so what we're saying is, and that's why it's important for these questions to be asked before we get to the meetings, because this just isn't, at any rate, so what we're saying is, they were previously approved for one position, and now we're coming
Correct.
back and we're saying, hey, we're gonna approve them as a regular employee.
Full-time.
And we're backing it up to the date that we had initially approved them for.
Right, after he went through the interview process. So he was approved previously to be a sub, so he served as a sub.
Yeah.
They opened up interviews, went through the process, he was the one selected. Once he was selected, he was moved to that position. We had a board meeting before then, so we didn't put anybody on the October 3rd meeting to be approved, any personnel, so it got pushed to this meeting.
So are all of these people that are on here, like the August 9th person, is he gonna be retro salary back from, till August 9th?
Which one's the August 9th one?
So August 9th is, 4.4, Kelvin Taylor from transportation aide to van driver,
So, yeah,
effective
so-
August 9th.
So Calvin Taylor was a bus driver already for us, so he's already working for us, so he was reclassified to a van driver.
I'm saying his salary. Is his salary going retro back to August?
If he's doing the new job, yes, it is.
So I'm just gonna put it out there for the record. I guess I don't understand what the concern is.
So the concern is we create a policy that says if you hire somebody, they're to
Which
come back and.
policy are you referring to? I'd like to know which policy.
You know what, I don't have my thing to pull
Okay.
up the policy, but
Okay.
I'll pull it up and I'll definitely mention at our next board meeting what the policy is. But the policy was stated, that was created, that the superintendent or the treasurer will be allowed to hire prior to a board meeting as long as it was brought to the next board meeting. So the concern becomes, you have somebody that's been working for 3 months and has never hit an agenda, and so, wait, let me finish.
Go ahead, he did hit the
So,
agenda though.
no, it didn't. They were there in a different capacity. And you can't say you hit an agenda if you were a sub or temporary or an aide or anything of that, because then you were going to a different position at a higher salary that causes retro. So that's not the same. But I'm asking a question. It's not a big deal. I'm asking a question. Don't create a policy if we're not going to follow through with the policy.
So I'm gonna ask
Hold
that
on.
you share the policy number before
Absolutely.
the meeting. Send me an email. Let me know which policy you're referring to, so we can look at it and address it at the next meeting.
And I will say-
My mind is clear
Yeah,
though.
the van driver, we have to approve the job description first. So the job description was approved first, and then I told him back once the job description was approved. But duly noted, Ms. Elba, our team will make sure this is not a common occurrence, won't happen as much. But the rush at the beginning of the year, and we had openings, and we actually you see a lot of promotion of our own employees, a lot of our own employees are getting the position, so we'll rectify and make sure it happens that way.
So he became a van driver on August 9th. Is that what you're saying?
Right, we came back this year, we purchased the vans, and he became a van driver.
All right.
Is there any other question, board? Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, motion carries 4-0. Next on our board agenda is the consent superintendent recommendation presentation for personnel and programs. I'm looking for a motion for items 5.1 through 5.4.
Mr. Chair,
Sorry.
I move that we accept as the superintendent's consent agenda, superintendent's recommendations and presentations for personnel and programs, items 5.1 through 5.4.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Moved by Member Gator, second by Member Mumin. Board, is there any question on any of those items in section 5, 5.1 through 5.4? Any questions on those items in 5? Dr. Rock, would you? Any?
No, no, no.
Dr. Rock, you can call it roll.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, motion carries 4-0. Next on our board agenda is any school board or conferences and conventions or workshops. We will bring that to the November 13th meeting for our National School Board Association, Council Urban Boards of Education, the 4 members who went to that. Is there anything else, board, that we went to that you guys?
Nothing else that was added to the agenda, so no, sir.
Okay.
That's it.
Is there any unfinished business, board? I didn't see any.
No, but I do want to announce that if anybody can make it, Youngstown is meeting with the State Supreme Court, and this is for anybody that can go, no matter what your position is. But they're meeting with the State Supreme Court on next Wednesday, the 23rd, to hear the final House Bill 70 resolution to say that it was unconstitutional, like I told you guys at the last board meeting, where if this does not pass, the House Bill 70 will take over Youngstown, which means that they will no longer have local control. The current board members will no longer exist, and the state will put people in to sit on their board. So they're asking as many people as they can to go down on the 23rd, not to speak, but just to show unity.
May I ask what time?
It starts at 9
In the morning?
in the morning. Yeah, it starts at 9. It's scheduled to last, they're saying 3 hours, but they don't know the block of time that that their lawyers is going to be speaking on their behalf, because there's several other things the State Supreme Court will be hearing.
Is there anything else that we can do in support of this? I'm not going to be able to get off work for this one, but I know we did the resolution recently.
Correct.
Yeah, I will ask, and then I will shoot you guys an email. Dr. Wright, did you send that resolution to OSBA?
I will have to check to see if we did.
If not, can you make sure that Will gets that
Yep.
before they go down for their meeting?
Who?
Will
Will
Schwartz.
Schwartz.
Will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Will Schwartz needs that to go when they go down to speak. So, but they do have a bus if anybody is interested in going in Youngstown.
Thank you, Ms. Elba. Any new business at all? There are a few announcements. This Friday, our boys' football game will have their last Roar football game. As of 2020, we have to make way for the actual new school. So this Friday at 7 o'clock on our field, we play Cleveland Heights. It will be the actual last game, football game, that Warrensville will have until we get our new stadium built. Our athletic director, Brian Swift, is working on that to get a location for those games in 2020 and 21, and possibly maybe even 22. I doubt if we need that, but so if everybody can come out this Friday at 7 o'clock, it's the last actual game that these seniors will play in this field, and we won't be playing on this field anymore. It'll be the entrance of our school. Also, I just want to announce, and most of you guys know, and I want to thank Ms. Elba and along with Dr. Rock, who presented our name for the Northeast Ohio School Board Association board team. All the board went, and we were glad to win that award. It was a surprise to me, but we did win it. Board, how did you feel about that, Mimi, when we won the OSB?
It was a great honor.
Yeah.
It was a great honor.
Yeah, it was.
Basically, what they said is because of our involvement statewide, the different committees that we serve on, the fact that we pretty much travel like our own little crew, when one of us goes, the majority of us go to different conferences. So it was great to be recognized.
Ms. Mumin, how'd you feel about getting that award, Northeast?
I wasn't there.
Oh, you wasn't there?
You know what? I wasn't there, but I was really pleased and happy
Okay.
to be recognized in that manner. I mean, because we try to participate. Everybody can't, but the majority of us do. So that's wonderful.
Thank you. And Michelle, thank you for presenting it, but how'd you feel about it? It was a good night for Mrs. Dean here, but I thought it was good.
Yeah, it was, overall, it was a nice evening. Mrs. Dean was very pleased. She talked about it the entire ride. It was better than what she thought it was. She didn't know what to expect, but she was very, very pleased that the board showed up and supported her and the team and Dr. Rock and Mr. Jolly. So overall, it was pretty good.
Thank the board for that, and it's good to be on a good board that everybody in the state, like Ms. Mumin say, are recognizing, so.
I was honored that the board received that award. I haven't had that my whole 17-year career, so I was
Wow.
very proud and very honored to be part of to work for a board that got that award. So congratulations.
Thanks. We just got two more other announcements. Our actual board, well, the actual board president, Tracy Mitchell, Superintendent Jolly, and Brad Sellers, the mayor of Warrensville, had the WZI 90.8, is that the radio station? 90.3. We had an actual meeting at the library. It was really good. It's well attended, probably maybe about 80 people or 90 people. And it just gave some insight on what we're doing in the district. Superintendent Jolly talked a great deal of what it took us to get out of that F type of district. Ms. Jolly, would you want to just talk about that?
No, it's just a great experience. It is a video for it. I think Caleb probably posted on our website. But it was a great experience for us to tell the story to the community and the great work that's been done by the great people that sit in this room. So it was a real great experience. We were the second community to do it. Lorraine was the first, and we were second.
Thank you, Superintendent. And the last but not least, everyone knows voting is November 5th of this year. All the Warrensville residents who live in Warrensville, you only have one polling or voting location. That will be at the Warrensville Heights High School Recreation, and that's November 5th. We strongly advise you to vote early, but okay, go right ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say the state of the schools is next Tuesday, 6:30 at South Point. Just want to remind everyone of that. And then also, two of our staff members were recognized by Cleveland State
Exactly.
on October 5th, I believe. Dr. Caver and Principal Takiba Thompson for excellence in leadership by Cleveland State. So let's give those two a round of applause.
Thank you, Superintendent. We would like everybody to come out October 22nd for the State of the Schools. It's going to be at South Point Hospital Auditorium, and that starts at 6:30 on that Tuesday, October 22nd. Dr. Rock, is there any correspondence?
No, sir.
Excuse me, before we dismiss, two things. Also on Tuesday, they're having that domestic violence thing at the library. That's at 7. And I don't know, are any board members, are you guys going to be judges for the Cleveland Heights thing? No?
The tech? No,
Yeah.
not me.
No, I will not be. Are you?
I don't know. I have to see if I can get off. I am actually scheduled for a workshop next week, so I don't know.
At this time,
I'm sorry,
go ahead.
Mr. Freeman, there is some correspondence. For the Capitol Conference that's coming up, and I'll make sure everybody gets a copy of this, it's just a reminder that the ribbons won't be in the mailing, that you get those when you actually register, you know, like the ribbons that go on your name tags. And that all delegate material will be mailed to the home address
I got
for a
mine.
delegate. Great.
Yep, and it included a ribbon.
And then if anybody was going to cancel, we need to know by November 5th, so we could put it in by November 6th in order to receive a refund. After November 6th, if you're not going, we would have to pay a charge. So if anybody is canceling, I have everybody registered for the Capitol Conference.
Thank you, Dr. Rock.
Sorry.
No problem. At this time, I would need a motion to adjourn the regular meeting of Warrensville Heights City School District, October 16th, 2019.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Do I have a second?
And I second it.
Moved by Ms. Gator, second by Ms. Mumin. Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Elba?
Yes.
Mrs. Gator?
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin?
So, Mr. Jolly,
Mr. Freeman?
I just have a question.
Yes.
You know,
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Yes.